Welcome back. Let's have this discussion now. South Africa's endorsement of the G7 Kananaskis Wildfire Charter signals a major commitment to addressing the increasing threat of wildfires across the African continent and elsewhere. With these blazes becoming more frequent and severe in Sub-Saharan Africa, the need for a unified regional strategy has become ever more urgent. South Africa's integrated fire management approach is already in line with the chapter's objectives, placing the country in a strong position to drive wildfire prevention and response efforts. Let's speak more about this, bringing now working on fire managing director Trevor Abrahams, who joins us now in our studios. Trevor, thanks for popping in. It's great to see you. This is such an important story, and mostly because of what is typically at stake. We often cover wildfires as they happen, and sometimes it may feel like isolated incidents, but the data at hand, of course, paints a very different picture.
Yes, I think under climate change, we've seen really an exponential growth in the kind of fires we're having. I mean, everyone saw LA, but there were many more other events. I mean, right now as we speak, the Mediterranean basin's burning again with evacuations in Crete. We've heard about Greece in the past years, Portugal, Brazil is burning terribly. And of course, something that not many people recognize, 67% of the surface area that burns every year is in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. And if we think about Africa and the world, we mustn't forget, last year in South Africa, 35 people died in wildland fires. 35, 18 of which were firefighters. So, it's here with us. Very often when we have fires in the Cape, it's all over the news. But it's actually burning across our country too, into our food basket areas, the Free State, the Northwest. So it's a global problem, and I think in that sense, it's incredible that the G7, these are the leading economies of the world, US, Canada, Germany, UK, France, Italy, Japan, that they will normally pay attention to things like, the global economic crises, political crises, conflicts, that they spend time to actually pen a declaration on wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that has really emphasized the need for a whole lot more of a collaborative approach to this. You rightly mentioned that I think we typically hear about wildfires when they're burning in the Cape, but what we miss if we focus just on that story is just how interconnected all of this is.
Yeah. So, obviously it has huge economic impacts, loss of lives, loss of livelihoods, and it's something that's becoming more acute, and the UN warned us in their study, Spreading Like Wildfire, in 2022, that this is going to get more intense, more widespread, and have more disaster impact. And I think some key themes that's coming out from the experts is that, one, we need an integrated fire management approach. So that means we must focus more on the prevention, the preparedness. When we get to fight fires, they're very expensive already. So you can do more, but educating people, doing the kind of fire breaks, that's important. The other big theme that came out of Kananaskis, as well as the FAO, the UN body in Rome's declaration, is to do an all-society approach. You can't just rely on the firemen. You need your communities to be better prepared. You need them to take steps to mitigate the threat of wildfire. So when you have an all-community approach, you also need our private sector to participate, as well as the governmental and the various other agencies that are engaged in wildland firefighting. So that all society approach is important. I think the other major theme coming in from the international community is trying to bring our science to the practitioners. There's a lot of scientists, a lot of academics who do study this area. There's a lot of technology. In Rome, we had NASA giving us reports of what their satellites do, what they can do to assist and give information to fire practitioners. So that marrying of the kind of technology side, the science side, with the practice is something that we need to, in fact, pursue.
Fascinating. I wonder if we're getting any better at understanding these fires. And I'm asking that because, of course, part of what it feels like exacerbates the damage is just our own lives, the way we've kind of lived in this environment, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, so after the LA fire, you can be forgiven to say, what do we do? So yes, the fires are changing. So this is the big issue about climate change. If you look at the Park fire in California in 2024, July, in the first 24 hours, 50,000 hectares burnt. That is one soccer field a second.
Wow. Staggering.
So you don't fight those fires, you get out of its way. You know, so the kind of wind-driven mega fires, and we had it in Neisner, you know, in 2017. The first day and a half, we could not fly with our helicopters and our bombers.
Just had
the
to
wind
watch
was
it.
No, the wind was too violent. So, you know, it's a phenomenon that's recurring. Jasper Park in California, in California, Canada. In 48 hours, half of the town was burnt out, right? And that's in a pristine national park. So we're having these incidents. Lahaina in Hawaii, more than 100 people died from that fire that came down that mountain overnight. So, you know, these kind of events are happening repeatedly. You're having tourist islands having to be evacuated in the Mediterranean. Algeria had 24 people die in 2024 in a one wildfire. So it's been recognized by the G7. It's going to be recognized by G20 as well as the COP30, which is coming up in Brazil this year. So it's becoming an international theme. And of course, the issue is, how do we collaborate?
Yeah.
We as Working on Fire have been to Canada on 6 occasions. We've been to Chile, to Indonesia to assist. So the issue, there's a term called now interoperability. In other words, we have the same standards, we have the same systems, so we can plug and play. You know, Canada had a rather unique experience in 2023. They had 12 countries participating in their firefighting effort in their worst season ever. Now you can imagine, you're bringing people together. We were fighting fires alongside people we couldn't speak to by virtue of language.
Sure.
But we had the same systems, and you know, we were able to assist in that regard.
Fascinating. I still think the concept of a wildfire starting is still so elusive to the general public. You know, we can all kind of imagine how a volcano goes off, how a tsunami starts, an earthquake, but wildfires still feel like, how does nature just start a fire?
Yeah,
and
so
it gets out of control.
So there's quite a few biomes that are fire dependent. So part of the ecology is to have fire burn. If you look at the Fynbos area, they need fire every 5 to 15 years, you know, in that range, to regenerate.
Right.
Right. But I think the issue that we're leading to, where does it come from? What starts it? So in many parts of the world, in fact, lots of the fires are started by lightning. Right. So in British Columbia in 2024, in one place where we were within a 48-hour period, they had 24,000 lightning strikes to the ground. Here, unfortunately, in our South Africa, it is mostly a human problem. Negligence being a key issue in terms of, you know, not extinguishing braais properly. People who are on Cape Town live on the mountain, who use fire for food. And then, you know, industrial work in areas that have sparks. So yes, negligence is a big part of our fire.
Fascinating stuff. Well, Trevor, thanks very much indeed for helping us, I suppose, take a step forward to understanding this, and hopefully this recognition by the G7 will drive this issue a whole lot more firmly into the center of public discourse. Really do appreciate the time. Trevor Abrahams, of course, is with Working on Fires, the managing director there, as we get a better sense of the story.